Residential Sales Comparison and Income Approaches, Chapter 10, Economic Principles and Types of Value, Page 7, Principle of Anticipation.
For example, let's say you are a prudent investor. You want to purchase an investment property, a single-unit dwelling that you are going to rent out. There are two properties available which are in your price range. One is in a neighborhood where there are other rental houses which have very good histories of occupancy, usually renting within a few weeks of being offered. The rental rates are at market, and the tenants stay for several years before moving out. The other house is also in an area where there are other rental properties. However, there are numerous vacancies, and the asking rental rates are generally lowered several times before a tenant is procured. It often takes up to 3 months to rent a property, and then the tenants tend to move out within a few months with little or no notice. Both houses are identical in every respect except location, and both are being offered for the same price. As a prudent purchaser, which house would you think is a better risk? Would you pay the same price for both houses? Of course not. Under the principle of anticipation, you would expect to pay less for the second house since there is greater risk associated with renting it at a market rental rate, keeping it rented, and selling it for a profit at the end of your holding period.
Residential Sales Comparison and Income Approaches. Help. Documents. Email Instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG8 Principle of Substitution. Notes print. Leave a comment. Principle of Substitution. The principle of substitution is defined as the appraisal principle that states that when several similar or commensurate commodities, goods, or services are available, the one with the lowest price will attract the greatest demand and widest distribution. This is the primary principle upon which the cost and sales comparison approaches are based. The principle of substitution essentially means I won't pay more for your house than I would pay for another one that is just like it. It is just as true in income property considerations, but the units of comparison between properties may be the quantity and quality of the income streams as opposed to the age or condition of the two houses. End of page. Chapter start. 58%. Residential Sales Comparison and Income Approaches. Help. Documents. Email Instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG9 Principle of Opportunity Cost. Notes print. Leave a comment. Principle of Opportunity Cost. The principle of opportunity cost is defined as the cost of options foregone or opportunities not chosen. What must be given up in order to receive something else? Opportunity cost is the value of what you gave up, CDs, bonds, etc., to purchase real estate. A prudent investor will choose the investment which seems to offer the highest rate of return at the lowest level of risk. Opportunity cost is closely tied to the principle of substitution in that a prudent investor will choose the investment which offers the highest rate of return at the lowest level of risk. As an example, you have $25,000 in cash to invest. You can purchase a 10-year CD, which will pay an annually compounded interest rate of 5%. At the end of the holding period, you would have earned $15,722 in interest, plus receiving your initial investment of $25,000 back. Or you could use that $25,000 as a down payment on the purchase of a rental house. Assume that if you hold the rental house for 10 years, the total benefits received would equate to an annually compounded rate of return of 12%. At the end of the holding period, You would have earned $52,646 in interest, plus received your initial investment of $25,000 back. The opportunity cost in this example is the $15,722 you gave up to earn $52,646. End of page. Chapter start. 58%. Residential sales comparison and income approaches. Help. Documents. Email instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG10 Principle of Contribution. Notes print. Leave a comment. Principle of Contribution. The principle of contribution is defined as 1. The amount a component of a property adds to the total value of the property. Contribution may or may not be equivalent to the cost to add the component. 2. The concept that the value of a particular component is measured in terms of the amount it adds to the value of the whole property, or as the amount that its absence would detract from the value of the whole. This principle focuses on the contribution to overall value that is added or subtracted by a particular component. In residential appraising, this might be a fireplace, deck, or swimming pool. The principle of contribution is also very applicable to investment properties. Investors look to see how much rents are affected by the presence or absence of certain components. For example, properties or units with air conditioning may bring more in rent than ones without air conditioning. End of page. Chapter start. 58%. Residential sales comparison and income approaches. Help. Documents. Email instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG11 Principle of Contribution. Notes print. Leave a comment. Principle of Contribution. Example. Property A is a 25-year-old home in a neighborhood with a good history for rental properties. All the components are original: carpeting and vinyl tile, kitchen appliances, water heater, and heating and cooling equipment. The asking rent is $1,000 per month. Property B is also a 25-year-old home, located one block from property A. It is identical to property A with the exception that the floor coverings, the water heater, the kitchen appliances, and the heating and cooling equipment were all replaced 1 year ago. Its asking rent is $1,000. Which would you rent? Why? Which would you buy as an investment property? Would you be willing to pay the same price for both properties? The contributory value of an item is not necessarily its cost. A swimming pool might cost $30,000, but only contribute $5,000 to the overall value of a property. In the case of property A, the improvements are approaching the end of their economic lives. That is, in order to be able to command a market rent, the investor would have to invest additional funds by replacing the components which are wearing out. End of page. Chapter start. 58%. Residential sales comparison and income approaches. Help. Documents. Email instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG12 Investors. Notes print. Leave a comment. Investors. The income capitalization approach considers the value of a property to a typical investor, also referred to as a prudent investor. The appraiser is required to recognize which types of investors are motivated to buy which types of properties and why. You must consider not only the income stream, which will be generated by the property, from rent, etc., but also the value of the property at the end of the holding period. The holding period is the amount of time a prudent investor will own a property before selling it, hopefully at a profit, i.e., more than the purchase price. The primary objective of any investor is to earn a profit from the operation of the property. The income generated exceeds the expenses required determined by selling the property at the end of the holding period. End of page. Chapter start. 58%. Residential sales comparison and income approaches. Help. Documents. Email instructor. CH10 Economic Principles and Types of Value. PG13 Income Capitalization Approach. Notes print. Leave a comment. Income Capitalization Approach. Residential investment properties are typically 1 to 4 unit properties. Although apartment complexes are residential in character, they are usually considered to be commercial investments. In valuing 1 to 4 unit residential investment properties by the income capitalization approach, the most common technique used is the gross rent multiplier, GRM, method. This is simple valuation methodology, which is geared to less sophisticated investors. Commercial investments typically include buildings with 5 or more living units, or any type of property that will not be lived in. In valuing these properties by the income capitalization approach, the techniques are more complicated and require greater expertise on the part of the appraiser. While the multiplier method can be used, the more common types of techniques include direct capitalization and discounted cash flow (DCF) analysis. These techniques are recognized and utilized by more sophisticated